You good?
Go ahead.
All right. Call the special meeting Howell Township to order. Roll call.
Mike Coddington,
Here.
Sue Doss, Jonathan Hohenstein,
Here.
Matt Counts,
Here.
Tim Bull, Shane Fagan,
Here.
Bob Wilson.
Here.
Please join me in the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Support.
Motion by Hohenstein, second by Counts. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Call it to the public. Number 6, Heritage Square, parcel 4706, 32, 400, 013 PUD amendment request to increase lot coverage percentage.
May I
You may.
approach? Thank you. Good evening. My name is David Strauben with MI Homes. I first off want to thank you all for being here in attendance this evening. I know I stood before you 2 weeks ago. You were so kind as to approve the PUD agreement and the Phase 1 final site plan. I, however, didn't have the opportunity, or didn't take the opportunity to speak about the third item on the agenda for that evening for the PUD, and that was the amendment to the PUD to allow for an increased lot coverage percentage. The current zoning ordinance has, I'm sure you're very well aware, the current zoning ordinance has a maximum 30% lot coverage ratio for detached single-family lots. The way that ordinance reads, if I can just take a couple minutes to read through that, it says the percentage of the lot or parcel covered by all buildings and structures located on a lot or parcel elevated above the surface, on the surface, or below the surface of the ground, and which impairs the percolation of surface water into subsurface groundwater areas and causes additional surface runoff. Dig a little bit deeper into that ordinance, and that percentage or that lot coverage restriction isn't just for the building, and it's inclusive of the driveways, the walkways to the front of the front porch, and to any patio or deck on the rear of the home. When we originally brought this PUD in front of you, although we included the calculation in our detention basin volumes, we didn't specifically ask for a variance or I don't want to say waiver, probably variance is the best word. We didn't specifically ask for a variance on the lot coverage, and we should have at the time. So I met with, or spoke with Jonathan and Paul Montagno from Carlisle Workman, brought up this oversight on our part when we were bringing the PUD through the approval process, and they suggested that the only way to do this is to amend the PUD. So I submitted back just after the first of the year an application to amend the PUD, stood before the Planning Commission back on February 11th, and kind of walked and talked through this, answered questions, and we were fortunate that evening to have a vote of approval to amend the PUD to allow for this greater lot coverage. During my conversation with Jonathan and Paul, one of the things that was brought up is the importance of thinking down the road from today. When folks move into their homes, they start installing patios and decks. We want to make sure that what's very important to us, and I'm sure to you as well, is we want to make sure that there's no I guess, further discussion or requests for variances in the future. So if we were to maximize the lot coverage with our building and the corresponding paved areas, and say we were at 30% at that point, and then somebody wanted to come in and add a 200 square foot patio on the back of their home, they may not be able to do that, or they would have to go through a variance process, and I don't know if it's a zoning variance or if they'd have to come before you, but they'd have to go through a process to get that approved. So one thing I wanted to point out is that our calculations that we sized the detention basins for, our calculations included our biggest home with any structural option that you can choose on that home, and a 200 square foot patio, and the paved surfaces, the driveway and the lead walk going up to the front door. So when we sized our detention basins, we did that so that stormwater runoff, or that stormwater that's percolating into the ground, now is going to be channeled to those detention basins, and will then have an opportunity to percolate, or if there's an extreme rain condition, there's an overflow that would go into the adjacent stream system there in the area. But I thought it was really important for me to point out that our detention basins there in the community are sized according to the biggest home on the smallest lot there in the community. The home plans that we're bringing to the community here are called our Essential Series home plans. The homes are sized between 1,957 and 2,600 square feet. We like to, we used to talk about affordability, but that's just such a moving target today that we say that we believe these are going to be attainably priced for today's market, priced from probably the mid 300s. Again, we size the detention basins for our biggest plan, but historically in I call it greater Metro Detroit area, our best 3 selling plans are plans numbers 2, 3, and 4. Those plans between about 2,100 and 2,400 square feet. So we don't believe that everybody's going to come in and buy the Juliet plan, our biggest plan, the 2,600 square foot plan. They're going to be probably buying those, called our sweet spot, the plans in the middle of the spectrum. Therefore, the detention basins, when that stormwater does enter those detention basins, those should never be to that maximum capacity. We don't believe so. Bear with me. I'm going to collect my thoughts and continue in just a moment. I wanted to circle back on one of the concerns that was brought up, not about this subject, but about kind of the open space or these homes and the density and the size of the lots. And one of the concerns that was brought up 2 weeks ago when I was here was the ability to fit a car on the driveways. I just wanted to point out to the board that our front yard setback is minimum 24 feet. We like to keep our minimum setback from our garages. I shouldn't say we like. We found that the minimum setback from garage to back of the sidewalk, minimum 22 feet fits most cars. And in this instance, we have a 24-foot setback, which I believe, with the exception of maybe some super large vehicle, should be able to accommodate most vehicles for folks parked on that driveway without that vehicle overhanging onto the sidewalk. One other item I just wanted to point out is that this being a PUD, kind of one of those features of a PUD, or one of the part of the PUD process allows you to just have a little bit more creativity in your land plan, encouraging a little bit more cluster development with the smaller home sites, but also encouraging more open space. One of the other calculations, in addition to confirming that our detention basin volumes were sufficient, we looked at the open space calculation for the community. And when we did the overall open space within the community against our lot coverage with that biggest home site on each and every one of the lots there in the neighborhood, our overall, I know it's kind of a cheating way of doing it, but we wanted to make sure we looked at it and just, kind of looked at it with eyes wide open. But our overall lot coverage, inclusive of the open space, which is kind of that offset for the smaller lots, our overall lot coverage is actually just less than 30%. If you just do that on kind of an average overall basis. Just something that I thought, in your consideration, you might like to understand. So without beating this one to death, I thought I'd just share all that information again. Apologize for taking away from your personal lives tonight on an off Monday. Appreciate that you're here, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
Just on the design, I see the coverage is outlined in red, and then I see a couple of spots on the plan where there's some red outline on there. Can you explain that? If you'd like to see what I'm looking at, I'll show you.
Why some of the lots are outlined?
Yeah, there's a couple of spots here, like this one in particular has this red outline here, and then there's another spot down here. I wasn't sure how that did that relate to this?
No, I don't believe it does. I think
Okay.
those were just some layers from the engineer that they didn't.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a few questions. In going through your request, I was going through everything you provided, everything the planners provided, past plans, the whole stuff. So how tall is your tallest building that you would offer in this development?
So it's a two-story plan. I believe the dimension to center line of the roof is about 28 feet. I can get that information to you outside the meeting, but
yeah.
I think typically the roof dimension is taken to the center line of the roof, and I believe that dimension is about 28 feet. But we don't have anything greater than 2 stories.
Okay, so nothing above, because it's 2.5 stories or 35 feet is the rule.
Correct. Nothing.
So you have nothing above that.
Nothing above 2 stories.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm a little confused about the request, because when I look at, you have that little bubble on the plan that you've also, our planner included it, has around the house layout.
Yes.
Right. And, when I read that, I look at that, and not a single one of your housing units actually fits on your smallest lot. It's not even that this is just a problem with the biggest housing unit. None of them do.
Again, what we did is for the calculation, we use so we have a structural option that's available on these, on these homes. It's called a morning room option. It's a 10 by 10 addition off the back of the home, just to make that breakfast nook a little bit bigger, a little bit more to spread out of somebody if that's what somebody needs for their family. So when we did the calculation, it includes the 10 by 10 room and then up to a 20 by 20 patio deck on the back of the home. So on the smallest lots, without the structural option, I think one of our plans fits, but the other 4 don't.
Okay. Because I went through the calculations and did my own, and I figured that if you included the sunroom, the patio, the driveway, and the sidewalk, the biggest footprint you can have is just over 1,000 square feet on your smallest lot and meet the 30% coverage. So looking at that, it looks like your smallest house is 1,330 square feet. But you're saying that includes the sunroom and the patio?
I'd have to look at my, at my calculations. I have a spreadsheet that I've done just to understand the overall impact of this. And I do know that, our smallest plan on the smallest lots, unless I did the calculation on our smallest plan on the smallest lots, does fit, and meet that 30% ratio. So outside of this meeting, we can compare notes, but I do know that the smallest plan does fit that criteria. And again, what we're hoping for is to be able to allow for all of the plans and all of the lots, just so there's no further conversation. I don't have to come before you again, or our neighbors don't in the future.
So I ran out of time to do the math on all of them, but you offer, a lot of your lots are different sizes as laid out in that chart. Is this gonna be an issue for any other lot other than the smallest size? Does your largest house fit on the next smallest lot at 30%?
No, it goes, as the lots get bigger, it gets easier.
Right.
But we've done a lot fit analysis where we take our base lots, and then we have 4 elevations per home. Our D elevation is the largest footprint elevation with an extended front porch, covered extended front porch. So your coverage ratio, or your lot coverage, increases with that D elevation. And then we start layering on the options. And the options, we don't have a lot. Again, we have a 2-foot nook extension, and then a 10-foot nook extension. So either 2 by 10 or 10 by 10. And then the only other real structural options on the home would be the elevation variances, which would be that, again, a D elevation with the largest front porch, and the front elevations get a little small from there. So, as the home sites get bigger, it starts to open up the ability for more homes on the lots. But I believe did the math, about 30%, if I'm not mistaken, about 30% of the home sizes there are the smaller lots that, those home sites are in the 5,000 to 6,000 square foot range. I think it's more closer to 6,000 square feet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I counted up, and I think there were almost 50 sites, and you have 170 or something. I can't remember what the number was, but so yeah, that's about a third. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing for me was that this. Diving into this on all of the requests from yourself, last meeting and this meeting, I did the lot calculation on the density, because the way the ordinance spells it out, you're supposed to remove certain items. So you take the overall acreage, you remove wetlands, open water, and the required open space. And then under the PUD, you're allowed to request 25% above what you would otherwise be allowed to do. That's what the ordinance says. And when I do that calculation, you're allowed to have 149 parcels, 149 lots. When you're well above that, you're now at 176?
Correct, 176.
So, it's kind of a problem of your own making, right? So, shame on maybe the planner, shame on us for not noticing, but you're already above the 25%, that is allotted under the ordinance. You've been granted it, so that's fine. But if you would have stayed to that 149, lots, I kind of feel that maybe this wouldn't be an issue. I mean, it's a lot fewer lots, and so those lots are going to be quite a bit larger. I can't guarantee all of them will be, but I don't think you're going to have any that are so small that we're having an issue getting too much house on too little lot.
Yeah, I understand that corner, that property, if I'm not mistaken, was the underlying zoning or the underlying master plan for that corner was RM, if I'm not mistaken. Medium density residential, and the density that we have for the overall PUD is less than the allowable density for the PUD. So I understand what you're saying, that that fewer lots would have been able to give you a little bit more elbow room, but I do believe that we meet the spirit of the ordinance and of the PUD, and we do have the open space and the buffers in the community that I believe are a reasonable offset. And I know this, what we're asking for is it's a big stretch from what the ordinance reads today. I respect the ordinance, and I understand why it's there. And again, that ordinance is there to and the lot coverage is there to protect the beautiful water that comes from the sky and allow that to get back into the ground and benefit benefit everybody and everything. In our overall plan design, again, I feel that the plan design was mindful of that stormwater. Maybe it's not going in that that spot, but it's still being detained in the community, and and still has the opportunity to percolate and and get into the groundwater aquifer over time. So again, I know this is a going from 30% to 40% is is a large ask, and I was hopeful coming out of Planning Commission that that I'd receive a yes vote in the previous meeting, and I wanted to come before you tonight just because, again, I didn't have the opportunity to have the the back and forth discussion to see if there's a if our request is reasonable, or if that if you're seeing that request isn't reasonable, is there is there somewhere between where the current zoning ordinance is, or the current ordinance requirement is, and where we need to be to fit all homes? Because if in the end I can't fit all homes on all lots, I at least like to be able to fit more homes than just our smallest on 30% of those home sites. So I'm just appealing to you folks to see if there's a a way that we can find a mutually agreeable solution. And I agree that earlier on in the process would have been a much better opportunity for for us to stand before you and have these discussions. A year ago, last January, when we were having the discussion, it was honestly an oversight on my on my point from our plan lineup and understanding the definition of lot coverage. We are in a position now where with respect to the status of the community and when we would start, we are waiting on the issuance of our water and sewer, our Eagle water and sewer permits. We still do need to formally execute the PUD agreement and post the financial guarantees, but for all intents and purposes, we're not too far away from being in a position to actually start development of our first phase. Our intention would be to open for sale in the fourth quarter of this year, and hopefully to start moving in new residents as early as the first quarter of 2026. So, we're excited about the opportunity. We're excited to be part of the township. We're excited to bring this development forward. I know it's been on the township's radar for I think close to 2 decades. At least this corner, or different versions of this corner, have been have been before the township, and, we're serious about it, and, we're excited to, get this one started.
Any other questions for David?
I have actually a question for Jonathan.
Okay.
Can you tell me where you see that the calculation is off and it won't meet 40%? You said the size of the homes wouldn't meet the percentage of coverage.
Right, so on the map that you were pointing at.
Yep.
So on the right-hand side inside the bubble.
Yep.
They list their home sizes.
Yep.
And they list the square feet, and I believe down here, the square footage includes, correct me if I'm wrong, David, includes the house, the sunroom, a deck, the driveway, and the sidewalk. So I think that's the total, essentially, area footprint that'll be covered by impermeable material.
Total footprint including a 200 square foot patio deck, yes.
Okay.
So that's where they tell you how many square feet that is, and then they're comparing that to the square footage of the smallest lot, and then they give you a percentage.
Right.
And so the biggest unit is at 39.9%, and the smallest unit is at 35.5%.
Correct.
So on the smallest lot, if you purchase their smallest housing size and included the sunroom and a deck, you would exceed your 30% lot coverage.
Yeah.
And that, I think that jives with what we were talking about earlier. I think that my calculation was correct in that you can have just over 1,000 square foot footprint for the home if you do take away those two other items.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Any other questions?
I have no questions.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I mean, I certainly think, like, I don't know, the way that I think about it is like, if I bought a house and I wanted to put a patio or a deck on it, like, it would be nice to just, to be able to have that option to do it, right? If I wanted to build that, I would want to be able to enjoy the outdoor space that I have. The lot sizes are really small, right? The small ones are really small.
So the houses are gonna be close together, the lots are gonna be
Yeah.
small.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, it is a reality in that there shouldn't be a reason to approve it or deny it, but it is a reality that, short of getting what he's asking for, the ZBA will be getting a lot of requests
Sure.
for variances.
Correct.
So, I mean,
Right.
again, not a reason to approve or deny it, it's
Right.
just kind of a reality.
Right.
If it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
approved, that
Yeah,
most likely that will happen.
yeah. I mean, so you could fill the subdivision and have 30 people say they want to put a deck on and have a sunroof too, right?
And I think usually with construction, the sunroom would come as part of you pay for it right now. And usually the deck is like a couple of years down the road. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Finally, you saved enough to do this, you're gonna do it. And so it's probably fairly rare to do it at the time.
I don't know, David, would you install a deck for somebody if they wanted it?
Pardon me?
Would you do the deck at construction if they wanted it, if a buyer wanted it?
I mean, my thought was
Yeah.
that it's not David that's gonna run into the variance problem, it's the homeowner.
I
So
would agree.
when they finally get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's a $400 fee for them to come in and ask for a variance.
Mhm.
And all their neighbors in the surrounding area come in and speak their opinions on whether they should get the variance or not too, right?
If they want to.
It's part of the
It's
public
part of the
hearing
process.
Yeah.
So would there only be, from what I'm seeing, only 16 feet in between houses? There's a 8-foot setback to the side lot line?
So they're allowed a 7-foot setback,
Yeah.
is what they were approved to do. So you could have 14 feet between
As
homes.
little as 14 feet.
Yeah. Between houses, yeah.
How wide are fire trucks, Mike? Is that a concern? I always
Fire truck's not leaving the asphalt.
not going in between.
I think if
Never
a
really.
fire truck probably went down that road, it wouldn't get out. It gets so heavy, it would just like a.
Not at $1 million a piece, they stay on a hard surface.
Okay. Just trying to determine how it negatively affects the community by granting the variance or the change to the PUD. I certainly understand how it doesn't meet the standards of the ordinance, but is it taken away from anybody? Is it causing harm?
Want to make a motion?
I will make a motion, Mr. Supervisor. I'll make a motion to approve the amendment request to increase lot coverage percentage from 30% to 40% for parcel number 4706-32-400-013.
Support.
Motion by Fagan, seconded by Counts. Discussion? Roll call?
Wilson,
No.
Fagan,
Yes.
Hohenstein,
I'm a no.
Paddington,
Yes.
Counts.
Yes.
We pass.
And
Okay.
we're excited to be part of the community. And hopefully when our homeowners come to your office or come to meetings in the future, they're happy homeowners. And
If not, we'll give them your number.
please do. Thank you. Again, I apologize for taking away from your personal lives this evening. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call
No
to the
apology
public.
necessary.
Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Counts, second by Holstein. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I'll keep that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.